who first defined what a father was to you,
Mhm.
and what now is your understanding of a father?
So my dad was the first father figure I've ever seen, saw. He was with my mom. He married my mom, got divorced, and then so the more of my dad that I seen was in a co-parenting,
Okay.
right? So I seen a lot of co-parenting. He did get remarried. And he was married for maybe like 13, 14 years to my stepmother at the time. Name was Doris. But he was the first person that I seen that I was able to put my eyes on as a man. I was taking care of business. I was inside of the home. And when he would be around us, everybody would get him to, oh man, that's good. You with your kids, right? It was like, oh man, that's good. Like, oh, you did. Oh man, you on the bus with, like, we'd catch the bus with us. Like he would do that when we were, when we were younger. So he was my first definition of what it meant to take care of your responsibility. Um, and now that I'm older, I see how it can get tricky, right? Because our connection kind of got tricky as I was going into adolescence and becoming to a teenager. And I was expecting different things or wanted a different man that I seen, right? And so that was the trigger of our relationship, right? Because in his mind, it was more so like, bro, what do you want? You know what I mean? Like, yeah, I did all this for you, and you tripping, right? And so his response to that was the response that he had, right? And so I did my teenage life without him, right? And so that dynamic kind of forced or gave me a particular perspective, because which now I'm a father, I do a lot of the things that he done, but now that I got teenagers, I'm looking for a response, right? So now I got a 15-year-old, I got a 14-year-old, my son about to be 13, and so my thing is like I don't want to respond like he did, right? And in a way because I know how that did for me as a kid and my perspective of him from that time. Not saying that his response was right or wrong, right? I just want to respond differently. And so that's been my tuggle as a father, right? I know what it looked like from K all the way up to a certain age. Me and my dad struggle came when I was about 13, 12, 13. And from there, I kind of lived life without him, right? And so right now I'm in that struggle time with my 15-year-old, my 14-year-old, my son. He's turning 13 this year, and he an egghead, right? And so I just don't want to respond like the way he responded towards me.
Absolutely, that makes sense. And so, what was it about the response that your father gave you that you think impacted you the most?
Uh, I'm gonna try to get through this without tearing up. Uh,
Right, right.
the the respond of feeling abandoned, like it was my fault, right? Like it was me, like that. It was just I couldn't live up to what he wanted me to live up to. I couldn't get stuff right, and it was I'm the reason why his life was what it was. And so getting rid of me was saying, yo, I'm good. Like I can be better without you. Like I don't need you to complete who I am as a man. And that left me feeling rejected. It left me feeling unwanted, abandoned, um, and I mean, unloved. That
Yeah.
my dad was my hero.
Yeah.
He was the first man. Like I said, I would hear the compliments. We young. We hear the compliment. Oh, you love your kid. Oh, you with your. We got the J's on. He
Right.
doing. I'm watching. I'm watching what he do more than I'm listening. I see who he was and what he did. All of the battles, I didn't have a full understanding. I mean, I'm 12, I'm 13,
Right.
but I know that he's fighting, right? And I know that he's doing a lot to make sure that we okay. And so when he sent me away to my mom, that response, um, it felt like you too much.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Like I'm straight on you, right? Like when you walk away from somebody, you saying that I'm straight,
Right.
right? And so And his mind was, his perspective, our conversation was, I sent you away so to teach you a lesson, to show the difference of, this lifestyles, and I sent you away so you can gain some type of perspective that I didn't understand what I was supposed to be gaining.
Exactly.
12. You know what I mean? What type of perspective you want me? You know what I mean? Right? And so I think that disconnection is something that I never want my kids to ever feel. I never want them to feel like I'm not there, because they didn't choose to be here, right? Rather, I chose for them to be here. That's enough. But they didn't choose to be here, right?
You the shooter. It's always our fault.
It's definitely my fault. It's definitely my fault, right? But I never want my kids to ever feel those, right? Never feel abandoned, never feel, rejected, and never feel like they're too much, right? So that's why I am who I am, and I think that's where my response come in from, why I'm able to continue, right? Because there's been times I'll be like, right, you know what I'm saying? I got girls, so that's a different dynamic, right? My dad got boys. He got 5 boys and 1 girl. I got 4 girls and 1 boy, or vice versa. And so it's tough, you know what I'm saying? And so, but that's where I'm coming from, though.
Absolutely. So let me ask you this question: have you healed from what happened with your father? And if you haven't healed, how are you healing?
I'm gonna say that I can't say I completely healed. I can say that I've learned how to deal, just like most men do, right? We got a wound, and we learn how to fix our posture. Like right now, I tore my Achilles, and so my body adjusted to that, right? And so now I walk a certain way because of the tear, right? And so I can feel it. Like right now, I'm feeling it. That it's a different way that I suppose, like it's not in my right, it's in my left, but our body kind of just adjusts as men. We kind of just forced to adjust. I wouldn't say I'm fully healed. I will say that these conversations help me being connected with brothers that's the fathers, and that dealt with, not having a father, or if you did have a father, right? Just being able to be open about this type of effect or life change. I think these conversations help more than anything for me. And then also understanding that God is the ultimate father, and that things happen for a reason, and how we can connect the dots when they need to be. But I think the biggest thing that is done for me, though, is made me be able to still stand for my kids. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And I think you brought up a great point. And one of the things I wanted to go back on is what you said about the womb, right? Somebody else was teaching on this, and I've been talking about it since I heard it. And the saying is that, like, when we get a physical wound, right, there's steps that go into that physical wound. The first thing you want to do is you want to apply pressure, right? In certain cases, if it's a wound is bleeding, then you want to clean it out, right? And then after you clean it out, then you want to properly bandage it. But then what happens is, if you don't take that bandage off, you start to do the reverse, right? The wound can never heal, right? And so one of the things that you mentioned about the wound is that we want to try to get to the point where we can get to a scar. Because if I'm wounded, then all I'm doing is just showing everybody how I was hurt. But if I can show you my scar, then I can show you how not only was I hurt, but I learned how to heal. I know what the process is of healing. Remember when we was boys on the block and we had our war wounds, our scars, and you were like, "Nah, man, look at this. Look, I hopped the gate and the gate caught me." Or, like I remember I got burned by an exhaust pipe once on the car, and I was like, "Oh, look at this." I had a friend of mine that for some reason decided he wanted to do his own fireworks and burnt the inside of his wrist trying to make fireworks. But like all these things you remember is like, now I can look back on it, and this is 30 years ago, but I still got the scar, but I remember the healing process. Like he got burned. My mom put aloe on it. Like she had fresh aloe, cut the fresh aloe, put the aloe on it, dressed it, but then said, "Oh, you can't wear this at night. So take it off and let it breathe." Right. So then you took it, and then weeks later, oh, it's getting better, and there's new skin forming, all this other stuff. So part of what we talk about is that process, right? Is that how can I take my wounds that maybe I didn't even have anything to do with? Like you said, there was a level of understanding that you just could not grasp,
Facts.
right?
Facts.
So you didn't have anything to do with the wound, but the healing part is all your responsibility. And that's where we gotta, like, sometimes the stuff that happens is not our fault. It's nothing we can do about it. It is what it is. But that work, that's our responsibility. And even like you had mentioned about the marriage, right? And like you learn is that like that was probably the hardest thing you ever had to do.
It was very tough and expensive.
Right?
Seriously.
Like divorce,
Yeah.
like that's crazy to divorce a woman, go through that, and then remarry her. That's wild.
Less than a year and a half.
That's wild, bro.
After $51,000 cash, purchased condo, paying child support for 2 kids that still live with me because they were like, "You can get a 2-bedroom. We not leaving home."
Right.
Never took her keys. Never changed any codes. Was still paying her car note, cell phone, still doing everything, and that's part of the whole father thing.
Yeah.
We'll kind of
maybe
touch on.
No, yeah, definitely, man.
And there's still work to be done, right? It's not like, oh, I did all this, I got it, and we're done. Like the work is still ongoing. Like that's what's so crazy is that I think for a lot of us, we ended up being work oriented, right? So I'm gonna answer the question, and I definitely want to open it up for everybody else. But my dad obviously was the first example I've seen of a father. The interesting thing about my dad is that when I was younger, my best friend was like, "Does your dad talk?" Right? And was serious. Chris asked me that, Dad, by the way, C-Ho, because my dad is very quiet in certain times. But when we get together, we have our time. Like our auto show was one of our traditions, right? We'll go to the auto show, and we used to have a competition of who would see more people that they knew. My dad roller skated, like you said, he worked for GM, all that. So there's quite a few years that he beat me on that. Like, they'd be like, "Hey, what's going on?" I'm like, "Dang, you got another." Like I ain't as popular and popping as I thought I was, right? But the example that I saw from my dad, and I didn't understand it when I was young, but I never felt some of the things that you felt that you dealt with, right? Which I'm fortunate for that. But what I understood or had the ability to understand is Dad's working, right? But what he showed me was a level of consistency that I had never seen before. Like, you know what I'm saying? Because I can remember times where he would work a double, come home, and then still hang out and kick it for a minute or whatever the case might be. And I just seen that consistency. There was a rhythm that he created just in the consistency of the day. And it wasn't, I tell everybody all the time, I learned my best lessons from my dad based on proximity, just by being close. I can't visually remember like, oh, I remember the moment where he taught me about a ratcheting screwdriver and how to turn and flick the switch for it to go the opposite way, but I know how to do it. I remember the screwdriver. It was a black handle screwdriver that we had that was a ratcheting screwdriver. And I remember figuring out how to use it, but I don't remember like, oh yeah, you have to do this, son, and this. Like we didn't have those weren't our lessons, right? Our lessons were like, you standing right here, this is what you do, fix this, go ahead and do this. You know what I'm saying? Like that was the example that I learned was being close in proximity. So what that taught me is that proximity matters. And with that proximity matters, behavior matters, good, bad, or indifferent, right? And what I learned also was that from that, with that proximity, with the fact that the proximity matters, there's a certain way that I can and cannot carry myself. But there's also an understanding that I'm going to fail. I just told y'all that in the bathroom just less than an hour ago, I could have handled it better. You know what I'm saying? Like, that was just an hour ago. Absolutely. I've been preparing for this meeting the whole 3 weeks, talking about, this is what we're going to do. We're going to get ready, and we're going to talk to fellas, and we're going to uplift, and I'm like, dang, I could have handled that better myself. But learning that, like, I want to always fail forward. Right? I want to be able to take that and say like, okay, yeah, this was a step, but now I can fail forward and advance and learn that from that. So who else? Let's open it up. Who else wants to talk about the question again? Just so everybody know was who defined what a father was for you? Who first defined that? And what is your understanding of what a father is now?
My stepfather, sad to say, but my stepfather, that's the first man that I remember being in my life. working. You know what I'm saying? That's all I knew he did. He just worked. He was a mechanic. You know, so he was a mechanic at the shop, Bob shop, and then he was a mechanic in the garage. You know what I'm saying? Okay. So since he been in our life, he had us in the garage. First thing was holding the flashlight before I knew anything. You know what I'm saying? Holding the flashlight on where he working at. Then it was like, take this out. You know what I'm saying? Take the speaker or something, like give me a project, you know what I'm saying, get me used to the tools or whatever, you know. Nice. And I like that, you know. I never, because ain't no man, if he wasn't there, I would never probably knew these things, you know what I'm saying, because no one was there to show me. No one had his brain, you know what I'm saying. So so I am blessed for that. And mind you, I was a knucklehead teenager, you know what I'm saying. I didn't like the man, you see what I'm saying. He was hard on me, like he didn't treat me like a son, you know what I'm saying? He treated me like a true stepchild, you know what I'm saying? He put his hands on me, you know what I'm saying? Like, punched me, just treated me wrong. So it was, but in the end of the day, out of all that, the good outweighed that bull crap. I learned, it was my behavior as well, but I learned, you know what I'm saying? He was just trying to teach me though. You see what I'm saying? Giving me work ethic. You know what I'm saying? None of my friends have that. They didn't know how to cut. To this day, they just now learning to do stuff at our age now. You know what I'm saying? Right. They didn't have that man in their home. You see what I'm saying? The teacher showing besides what we were showing. You know what I'm saying? Me and my brother, because we knew a lot. You know what I'm saying? A little something about everything. So, but that's what that's what out of what I learned. You know what I'm saying? By him being in my life. You know. But I was a knucklehead. I ran him away and everything. I got in my 20s. I went to him crying, like, hey, I appreciate what you have done for me. You know what I'm saying? Every time I would see him, I shed tears and I thank him for my work ethic, that I'm not lazy. I'm not out here just a fly on the wall. You know what I'm saying? I try to stay busy. You know what I'm saying? You have your down times, but I got to stay working. You know what I'm saying? And I pass that on to my nephews and them as well. That's what I put back out from what I learned from him. I put that same energy into my nephews and my family and friends that want to listen. You know what I'm saying? The ones that want to work. Because everybody don't want to work. You know what I'm saying? But at least at least got to put my input, like that person was in my life, and put that in me. You know what I'm saying? So I at least got to do my part for that. You know what I'm saying? So that's what I do. You know, that's good.
That's dope, man. I appreciate that.
Yeah. Something you said, right, that I want to, and yeah, I'm always going to try to pick certain out. But something that he said that you can also take as a life lesson, you said shine the flashlight on the part that you're working on. Sometimes you just got to shine a light on the part that needs the work the most. But the hard part about it is, men, we don't always shine a light on it. Yeah. We know it's there. We hear the clunking. We know we tired. We know we broke down. We know we beat up. We know something's wrong. But we don't shine a light on it. We just let it go. We just like, hey, be all right. Or like you said, you learn to maintain. You learn to maintain, right? So
I also wanted to point out perspective.
Yeah.
One thing he said that he didn't treat me like my child, which was a perspective because his dad not there. So how would you know how you're supposed to be treated, right? And I think that perspective is everything, right? Yeah. Which was one of the reasons why he was able to go back and give praise, right? Because if that was the real thing, you couldn't be able to praise a man that didn't love you and treat you. The Bible tells us to train, right? To train as the way they should go. Trainer, we was in camp, not even knowing, you know what I mean? And that just stuck out to me a couple weeks ago, because we like, yo, we raising our kids, and our kids are in environments, but if you peep the kids that are most successful, they're being trained, right? 100%. They're being trained. They don't get their way. You know what I mean? They, like Serena and Venus, they were trained. Tiger Woods trained. Like when we think about the greats, they were trained to be who they are. And so a lot of who we are come from some type of trainership. And you know what I mean? So I just wanted to point that out as well, man. That was good. Anybody else want to dive in on that?
Same thing. My dad, he was just my first example of what manhood was and what fatherhood was. And the same things. He was a provider and a protector, right? That level, like you said, that level of consistency. You know what I'm saying? Like that's what it was: consistency, stability, safety. You know what I'm saying? It was certain things that we never had to worry about. Like I grew up in a household, we never had to worry about the lights getting cut off. We never had to worry about just it being evicted and none of that. You know what I'm saying? He provided a safe and sound environment. So that's, that's what I learned from watching. We didn't really have conversations. He didn't tell me, son, this is what you do.
Yeah.
We just did it. You know what I'm saying? That was it. And then just how it impacted me. I mean, that's how I approach, my man as well. It's like, okay, I know I'm supposed to provide. I know I'm supposed to protect. But I know just being raised by a baby boomer, right? Baby boomer men are a little interesting. Right?
Yeah.
So that emotional piece, that emotional connection, it wasn't there.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But I know that I need that for my kids. So that's, and me working in the field that I work in youth development, I've been able to get training being in that I didn't necessarily get in the home. Like, even to this day, like I said, my dad is the same age as your dad, 16, right? And I still don't know the depths of my father.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? It's like, I know surface stuff like everybody else knows.
Right.
And I may know a little bit more from living in a household with him, right? And then now that I'm older and I ask some questions, he'll share stuff, but I got to do the digging, right? Yeah. It ain't just offered to me.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So that's probably the biggest thing that I wish that I did have, that I know that's important as a father and as a man, that's needed. But he was that first example in that provided and protected was the main thing. There's other things, but that's what I saw most.
That makes sense. Yeah. And I just thought about this, and I want to be sensitive to it as well. Is there anybody in here that grew up without their father or without having that? Okay. So we got it. Yeah, I definitely want to talk about that because I think that has an impact, right? More than what we understand or know. But it's crazy. Like now they have all these statistics where they're like, oh, households without father, like this is the percentage of probability. But then on the same token, society would have you think that fathers are optional, and that's, so I definitely want to, if you want to start that conversation from that, and
okay. I was absolutely thinking that from a different perspective. And it's once again a bit unique. First thing I want to say is props to you, because that's one of the things that us as men, it's hard for us to accept accountability and be responsible for what our portion is. So you didn't appreciate some of the things your stepfather did, but then you gave him credit for things he did do. You acknowledged it, you apologized, and you still carry some of that to this day. So you could have easily played, look what happened to me, but it's like, no, I contributed to some of what was happening, although everything wasn't above board. So I really respect the fact that you can speak to that and give them some credit. For me personally, unfortunately, the first example I got of what I thought being a father was from myself. And the reason I say that is my father was around, which made it worse than being absent. So he wasn't in the home. Very quick story. Him and my mom divorced as I was early on. I got a younger brother who was born before the ink was drawn to divorce. My mom had kind of moved on, had a boyfriend or whatever the case, and we're living at this point. They were separate, But we living in, low income project housing. He didn't like the fact that she had kind of moved on, and he was outside the place, and he's like demanding them to come out, and I wouldn't come out. So my father literally like shot up our place while we were all in it. Me, my two siblings, older siblings, and the guy and my mom. So it really put me in a spot to where I had major trust issues to believe really what anybody was saying, because I thought it was, love, if you will.
Yeah.
And so we struggled big time. And when they divorced, she had got the house. We were living in like Joy Road, Illinois, retirement area. And she was ordered the house, but we was so destitute, she couldn't even afford it. So we're living in the project. She is renting the house to somebody just to get it paid for. And the reason I say he was there but wasn't, he's a Vietnam guy, retired from Chrysler. He had bread, And what was interesting is my younger brother, while we were not eating, lights, whatever was going on, it was like really tough. My younger brother went to private school, K through 12. And he had 2 older siblings who I actually went to school with one of them. So my father is in their home taking care of a guy that I go to school with. I'm super struggling.
Yeah.
My younger brother going to private school, so it was kind of a don't care what's going on.
Yeah.
So
That's
it
crazy.
truly, it made me really think that
That's wild.
I just want to be opposite of what he was. So that's why I was my view. It was just, I'm going to do the opposite of what he's doing.
Yeah.
And it led me to the streets. And it, a whole lot going on because that's just what kind of happened. I had no choice. I'm helping my mom with, things and, trying to go to school, all of this stuff. And, she's basically like, you better not be doing nothing you're not supposed to be doing.
Right.
It's plausible deniability. I can't accept it, but I need that. And so that's what kind of just drove me. So it was tough seeing him around, seeing him with new cars continuously, seeing everything that was happening. And I truly felt like you felt at a point where it's like, you kind of like, I'm straight on you, and abandon the whole situation. And so what that did for me as a father is I was not going to leave my kids without. So they're going to get any and everything, and I'm going to be in the home. Those were the 2 things that I was missing. So that was my view of what needed to happen. So I wasn't there with the emotional or mental availability because it's like, hey, I'm here in the house. I'm providing.
Right.
That's what. So I gave them what I wanted. So I was living out little on.
Yeah.
Through my children.
Yeah.
And as a husband, that's what partially led to my divorce. Is I didn't learn how to be a husband.
Yeah.
I'm not beating on you. I'm here.
Right.
I'm taking care of the kids.
Yeah. Leave me alone.
So
right.
You got the perfect husband.
Right.
So that's what. And so
where's my cake?
I never.
You hit me.
Learned that part.
Yeah.
And it was also the portion with, how I raised my kids. And, she had been telling me about, some things she would connect me with, and she sent this. So I was very thankful for it.
Nice.
And so as my kids go through therapy now, my wife, we it's regular. Like, it's a weekly thing for me. It's part of my life because I understand I was the guy, like, can't tell me. I don't know nothing.
Yeah.
Then I'm going to go and I'm still not going to tell you the truth. So, see, it don't work.
Right.
I started to pour into it and realize what it was pouring into me.
Yeah.
And so my daughter, who's 25, she brought to me, she was like, she wanted to talk to me and kind of telling me that, Dad, you did great for me. You did all of these things, but there's some things that I realized that I was missing. It's the emotional availability.
Right.
And those type of vulnerable conversations and things, so she called me out on it, which I was appreciative of it, but I then realized kind of that I wasn't doing everything I could have been doing because I was supporting my own thing.
Yeah.
And so I was so bad at the other part, just being in the home. It's like my son. I remember he was probably 5 years old. I'm getting him ready, go to school, whatever the case, or daycare, whatever, preschool, whatever it was. He using the bathroom. He's small, right? He's like 5. He didn't miss, and he peed on my foot. But I grew up in such an angry, aggressive manner where I always felt like I didn't look like what I was going through. I felt like people always was trying to challenge me. So it was a thing that I was going to make sure I inserted my power to let you know
I'm not the one.
Play with me.
Yeah.
So here's this little kid that peed on my foot, totally incidental. Before I knew it, I had punched him in his chest. It's embarrassing to say, but these are the things that I would not normally say because it's like, I don't want nobody to know this.
Yeah.
But it's the truth. That's where I've come from. That's what it was. And I wasn't even thinking. It was just a natural, felt disrespected.
Yeah.
I'm going to show you. But it was, I had that energy kind of with any and everybody that was around.
Yeah.
So the way it has changed me, to get off of my soapbox and my long story.
No, you're good.
Is now as a father, I know I can't change the previous missteps that I made, but I'm definitely in correction of doing those things through therapy and understanding to be there now for my son as well as my daughter. But the other thing that I've done is started to, someone spoke about, is taking other people's children. I know we'll probably get down the road to that.
Yeah.
But I felt that it's my responsibility to quit saying, pull me, product of my environment. You want something different, you change it. So it could be young men from anywhere. I don't care if it's the gym. I don't care where it is.
Yeah.
I have become with all this gray hair.
Yeah.
And I take my time to pour into young men where I'm realizing that what I didn't have, and I'll straighten out some things. I have a bigger responsibility than to raise my 22-year-old son. I have to pour into other young men that can go the absolute opposite way, just like I did,
right,
prison and everything else.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel that that's my responsibility. So I truly hold that in a regard. And the last thing I'll say about it, I was in the gym today. I trained with a guy in the morning, and then I go to another gym to kind of close out my stuff.
Yeah.
I went in that gym, and I didn't touch a weight.
Mm-hmm.
Because there was a young man that was talking to me, he was asking me some questions, and we got to talking. And usually I'm trying to rush it along because I'm busy, I got something to do. But I used to always say that I don't hear God speak to me. Like people say, well, God put this on my heart, or I heard God say, and I'm like, I don't hear these things. I don't know what you guys are hearing. But what I realized is that I was listening for what I wanted to hear.
Right.
I was looking for confirmation of what I wanted. But when I stopped doing that and truly listened to what was happening, I didn't go to the gym to get my second workout. I went to the gym with the intention of that.
Mm-hmm.
But what God was saying and put on my heart was that young man that was going through a depressive state and needed somebody to talk to. So I spent that time in there and realized once I believed, I was like, because I had some other stuff to do.
Yeah.
I didn't touch a weight. I was over there, spent the time, but I didn't feel like, oh, I wasted my time. Oh, I didn't get this. I truly found and served that purpose.
Yeah.
So I listen and can hear it now because I'm not trying to hear my own voice. And that's part of that sitting in silence.
Yeah.
Is when we hear our own thoughts and voice, we have our own answers, and we're going to operate the way we think it should be. And nothing else can move you, shake you, or anything else. So,
right. Erroll, can you get the door? Right, I agree. Yeah.
So that's what it has told me is even though I don't have any, only have 2 children, I'm trying to be the best of a father figure I can to young men who need that support and don't have anybody the same way I did. And hopefully, if you could change 1, 2, a couple, whatever the case, I just feel like my purpose would be greater and serve.
Absolutely.
No,
yeah, that
man,
makes
I appreciate
sense.
You. I appreciate
And
that.
what was you about to say?
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say one of the things that I love that you said was 2 things. A, obviously getting therapy, right? I think I'm also in therapy. I'm a big proponent of it. It's needed, and multiple forms. Weight therapy is one of my therapies as well, but I also do have a therapist also. So, but the thing that I think is big that you mentioned that I think is also, I want all of us to understand, everything we do is not for us. Like everything we do is not for us. And I think even in looking at, like, my father talked about 50 years, right? That wasn't for him. If you think about it, right? If you could really stand here and say, like, I want to work 50 years someplace in different environments. My father was a skilled tradesman, welder, in a weld suit. I remember going to the plant and it was 115 degrees inside the plant and he still had on a full suit and a mask. That wasn't for him. You know what I'm saying? Like, it was for everything that came after him, right? And so even with the things that you mentioned, with the examples, with the healing, with the going to therapy, with having the kids in therapy, right? All these foundations and blocks that we build is for that down the line, right? And sometimes we do have the blessing of being able to see some of the fruitions of the things that we worked through and be like, yeah, I started this, like we had certain family traditions. Like I remember when we started this family tradition and now we do it every year, and 10, 15 years later, we're going to keep doing it, right? But there's some things that we'll never see. There's some healing and work that we can do internally that the benefit of that we'll never see. And that doesn't mean that we stop doing it. That doesn't mean that we don't, you know what I'm saying? Like, that should be the motivating factor. It's like, I don't know what's going to come out of this, but I know that whatever I do today is going to be that ripple effect, right? They estimate, and I'm a fun fact kind of guy, right? So they estimate 3.9 billion stones in the Great Wall of China. So if you think about that, 3.9 billion stones to make up that Great Wall of China, which that's the one they say, oh, you can see it from outer space and da 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 da. It wasn't one person that did that. It wasn't one family that did that. It wasn't one, but everybody took that little part, and wherever they left off, like, oh, they did that. Okay, well, we gotta put that stone to put that, you know what I'm saying, and figure it out. And then I'm sure they improved the process. What took them 6 stones to do, now somebody figured out, well, if we use bigger stones or smaller stones, because they're not all the same, you know what I'm saying? They're not all the same style stone. So if they figured out how to make it better, and that's what we're doing. Like, we're building our Great Wall of China, if you will, with our own individual families, with our legacies, and with things that we leave behind that we will never see. I recently went to a funeral. My childhood pastor that blessed me as a baby, blessed him when he was a baby, but then also baptized me when I got born. When I got born again. I went to a funeral. Funeral was 2 days. There was a Friday, and then the actual service was on Saturday. But Friday was like a memorial celebration, 5 hours long. And I'm thinking to myself, 5 hours long of celebration of people. And I'm talking everything from scholar, like he went to Morehouse, taught at Harvard, went to Harvard School of Divinity, led the church for 39 years, all these things that you're thinking about. And the thing I thought about is we don't all have to make that level of impact to still have that level of impact. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, there might not be somebody but there's going to be one, if it's even one person, if it's even that guy that you talked to at the gym that was like, man, I remember 10 years ago, I was on the brink and some dude came in and just talked to me for like 2 hours and then changed. And so now he's going to do that. And now that ripple, he's going to do that same thing for somebody else. And then you see what I'm saying? And so, like, the things that we do are not for us, but we have to keep doing them. That was it. Yeah.
Even like I said, my nephews when they were small, and I've been teaching them that as well. So they are in their 20s now. The same step that I did with my stepfather, now they come to me now like, hey, Uncle, man, thank you. You wasn't, you know what I'm saying? You wasn't, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. He's seeing the reality now. You know what I'm saying? All the stuff that I was on him about, because I ain't trying to hurt him. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. I'm just trying to help him. You know what I'm saying? Give him something somebody else ain't gonna give him. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But it came back to me as well. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
absolutely.
I want to just piggyback off. Both of them brought up this social emotional aspect that I think that gets kind of tossed away when we talk about manhood. There is an emotional place in being a human, and then there's an emotional place of being a man. And I talk to my brother LP a lot, and we always talk about the danger of men is a man that's not emotionally disciplined. But I think also in that we become so emotional disciplined that we're not emotional at all, right? And so being able to be a father, one of the things that's been coming out of me is that emotional part, right? Like I'm emotional about stuff that is like, no, I wouldn't even care about this, right? But now I'm a dad and I react with this emotion, right? That may feel a lot of times, may feel unloving because I'm emotional. And so being able to see what that look like, socially emotional learning, and being able to act in that place, I think is a place that we all probably can do some digging in and be able to place our best efforts in. I know for me, especially having girls, because they all, oh my God, it's nothing but emotions, right? It's nothing but emotions. I know he say he got 7. Ooh, I got 4, so I know you up. Yeah. But dealing with women and even dealing with our women, right? It's an emotional roller coaster, right? And so how do we as men be able to show up emotionally, right? And then emotional support. And that's just, it's a question out there that we want to ask that, but go ahead, Jordan.
I'm gonna touch on that. I think one thing before I get into what I was gonna say was I think it's less about you being emotional and about how we respond to the emotion. So you can we never want to undermine how we feel in having those emotions about how we respond, and those are two different things. But something that I wanted to touch on was by what's your name again? Ron and Lon.
Yep.
You know, it's funny, and I feel like God just really doesn't make any mistakes.
Yeah.
For a while, I know Ron, when you said not knowing the depths of your father, like that hit home for me. Because for me, it was like I wanted to have that intimate, that conversational relationship that I had with my mother, with my father. I wanted to know him in that way. And so when he passed and I became a father, I saw myself not allowing myself to have done enough for my daughter. Because it was always, I'm feeling how hurt I was as a kid, not feeling like I never got enough from my father. And so when you guys talk, something that as I tried to work through it, it's something that I came to. I end up reading the Bible, and I know we talked about the faith. In Chronicles, if you go in Chronicles, you'll see the kings, and you'll see like multiple verses for all the kings except for when you come to a king called Job. He has this one, it's like one paragraph. I started to look like, okay, what about him? Just why does he have just this one paragraph? Everybody else has multiple paragraphs. And so what jumped out for me, it just said limited. And when I looked at like the first line of it, it said, Jotham did right in the eyes of God according to his father's sin. And as I started to look on that more, I started to think about how focused I was on my father's sin. And how that possibly was limiting me in my own relationship with my daughter, because I was so focusing on how hurt I was. When I looked further into like that paragraph, they talked about Jotham doing everything, but he did not enter the temple of God. So I started to think, okay, so he's doing things right, but his relationship with God is limited. I started to think. And so when you talk about like, I was so focused on these areas that my father wasn't doing, that I was limited in these other areas. And I think that when we don't kind of address those hurt areas, when we don't reflect on how I felt back here, it limits us into all this out here, and it limits us to what we know as God's grace. Giving yourself that grace. And that's something that I learned, you know, just in reflecting on that. I could never allow myself to do good. Like, I remember myself, my daughter's first Christmas, I'm spending hundreds. She's not gonna play with all these.
Right.
She
playing with the box.
She
Playing with the box, bro.
She playing with the hanger.
You hear me?
She playing with the hanger, and it's like, because I couldn't allow, I needed more.
Yeah.
She didn't need more, but until I sat down and said, okay, what was I feeling back here? What hurt did I feel back here? Now I can address that, and now I'm not taking out the breath from our relationship. I'm allowing it to grow. I'm giving it grace.
Yeah.
That's dope, man.
Man, that was big. And I think one of the things that you brought up and that stuck with me is you said, I wanted my father to see. I think some of the hardest things for us in general is to get approved by somebody who's never going to give us approval. And understanding that I have to approve me without getting that approval. If I never get the good job, if I never get the pat on the back, if I never get the, I see you, if I never get the, I've got to know I'm approved, right? And so one of the things that I talked about before, and that I do often, is I talk to myself, and not in the sense of like that, but I record myself voice memos. And what I do in the voice memo is I talk to that version of me that I'm trying to get to, wherever that in that season I am, right? So any idea of what I want to embody, whether I'm walking in that or not, that's what I'm talking to myself. Because I think the thing that we are going to learn is that we might not never hear that magical phrase that we need. I'm not going to say we don't need. It's not a want. It's a need, right? every man, and I try to explain this to my wife, and I talk to my wife about it. Men are wired by approval. We are wired by defined lines, right? That's the reason that there's the court, the basketball court is here to here. Here's a 3-pointer, here's a free throw, here's the zone, here's out of the zone. Football field, here's a yard, tenant. We understand in that concept. So if I move the chain, that's a first down. Exactly. Give me my credit. I move the chain. Exactly. So what do we do when we never get that accolade, that understanding of like, I moved the chain, but nobody's seen it? You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Or like even going back when we were when we growing up, we used to do things like we would have competitions of who can wheelie their bike the longest, and we would pedal. But if you say like, oh man, I wheelied and I got 16 pedals, but none of your boys was around, never happened. Never happened. No, it never happened. Nobody believes you, right?
Prove it. Prove it.
Prove it.
Run it back.
Right? And so I think that's the thing is that proving it is what we have to give ourselves. Like you mentioned, God's grace, we have to give that and feed that into ourselves and not prove it to everybody externally, not prove it to dad or mom or our kids or our community, but just prove it to me. I just need to prove to me that, and if I can prove to me that everything else will move out of the way, you know? Go ahead, Coach.
I'm gonna come back with that.
Yeah.
Actually, I learned how to be a father by women.
Mm-hmm.
I was raised by a powerful grandmother and a powerful mother.
Yeah.
They taught me how to fight. So in the absence of the father not being there, I'm just gonna pose this question. What is more important to a child than loving a child? I just need one answer.
Nothing.
Spending time believing in them.
Yeah.
See, my mother loved me, but my grandmother believed in me. See, it's one thing to house a child, feed a child and everything. Well, if your child say, I want to be a rapper, what's your next move?
Right.
You gonna take them to the studio, or you gonna say, oh, that's fine, and go walk away? So you have to believe in somebody. See, with my daughter, I just strictly believed in her. I told her she was the most beautiful thing in the world. I always talked up to her. Now, my mother had me at 15, so my father wasn't in my life. Actually, my grandmother scared him out of my life. Like, go on, get on out of here, whatever. But, she raised me up. She got a job right out of high school. But my grandmother, I really never noticed, I'm serious, I never noticed that I needed a father until I went to school. It was my grandmother made it like, you start walking, you start working in the house. She taught you skills to pay the bills. She paid you. You had money. I mean, it was a oasis. Yeah. Then when I went to school, people started talking about father. I'm like, a father? So I asked my mother about my father. She was telling me my father. I'm like, but I never really missed it until I started growing up. Yeah. But I'm the oldest grandchild, and I'm the oldest in my family. So I'm gonna go a little further. When my stepfather was too much of a coward to be there after he had my brothers, I had to be the man of the house. I had to be the protector. My mother worked at Christ. She worked. So we used to be home alone, and I'd be like, if anybody come in this house, it's going to be a problem.
Right.
I don't care who you is. I slept with butcher knives under my pillow and everything. Because you come in the house, it's over. See, I used to teach my brothers how to walk from up to the attic to the basement in the dark, stealth. Somebody in the house would just creep up, but you're not gonna harm my brothers. And my mother, they just taught me how to be tough. When I was out in the street, don't mess with my brothers. Don't mess with my brothers. I don't care who you is. Don't mess with my brothers. So, and then when my stepfather was there, him and my mother used to fight all the time. I thought he was beating my mother, but my mother, she was the type of person. Oh, you going out? You ain't gonna stay home? Why? They get to fighting. So she started to fight.
Right.
But I just seen them fighting, so I hear him fighting my mother.
Yeah.
So I got angry because I couldn't do nothing about it. I was getting angry. So I took that anger in the street, fought. I fought in school all the time. Guy be 6 foot tall. He want to start stuff, I grab a chair. Bust him across his head, we get to fight, I get kicked out of school.
Yeah.
I was fighting beating on my brothers because I had that anger in me. And it was terrible. My mother took me to it was a place right next to on Finkel Linwood. It used to be a what's them houses you take kids work with kids too, whatever.
Oh, like
Foster care.
boys
Appreciate
for
that.
yeah, boys song, yeah,
She said, if you don't calm down, this is where you gonna stay.
yeah.
So, I calmed down, whatever, but like I said, I always had to be the man in the house. So piggyback to when I had my wife, we was married, my wife had bonus kids and everything. I call them bonus.
Yeah.
When she passed, I was so messed up. I was drinking, drugging. I was through.
Mm-hmm.
But it took an 8-year-old girl sitting on the couch. She said, "Daddy, it's hard to live without mama. I don't know what I'd do without you because you stopped drinking and drugging." So I was like,
wow.
Every time I thought about her. So I put her number one in my life. And I made sure that you gonna be somebody if I gotta lay my life on it.
Yeah.
So I took that same protection I did and put it on my daughter. So now, like my man, he's talking about I channel my trauma now, my anger and I channel it into something positive. So like right now, a lot of times I think about the achievements of my child. I cry tears of joy, but I also cry about the pain that I went through. Because don't nobody care about no single father. You a single father and a widower, nobody caring about you. So I ain't got a big booty and, hey, got paying my bills and all. No. You got to get how you live.
Yeah.
So right now, I'm writing a journal, and it's going to be a book. It's called The Trauma of a Single Black Father and Widower Raising a Scholar. See, anybody can say, when you want to raise somebody for greatness, that's when that work come in. So I didn't have a job because I always wanted to be there for my baby. So I had to be entrepreneurial, put it that way.
Yeah.
To make sure I was there for my baby. Phone call, school call, I had to be there for my baby. And it was a lot of things. We've been struggling, we've been homeless. There's been times where I ain't have no money, so I buy a breakfast, I have her eat it, whatever left, I would eat it. But now that where she's at, I had like coaches telling me, you got her doing too much, she's gonna be a jack of all trades, a master of none. And I'm like, now she got 2 master's degrees, I can't wait to show him to his face. You say she gonna be a master of none. But see, that's my baby. I put everything into our channel, everything into my baby. You gonna be great. So, and I look back now, it works.
Yeah.
When you say forget that, you gonna be great. I don't care what I gotta do. And plus, I'm not gonna go out here doing nothing stupid and go sell drugs, get arrested. Because then I'm not gonna be there for my baby. So it's like you wanna be doing some things, people come your face trying to give you some illegal activity. No, I'm not doing that. Because I gotta be here for my baby. But muscling up like a man and like, let's get it.
Yeah.
And it's helping me with that trauma, because I'm telling you, it'd be a lot of nights I just be crying, be tearing up, be like, dang, because it was rough.
Yeah.
It was rough. But when you look at when it comes back now, you're like, dang, I even wear it on my shirt. I put the degrees on my shirt to let people know single black fathers can raise. But I'm not trying to take it from you, just fathers, period. When you want to just put that greatness into it. Plus, working with my program, their children have been in my program with the boxing program. It's bigger than that, but it helps me also. I have to work with my young people. And it really gives me just joy. I used to volunteer for 10 years doing it. Now I get paid because my daughter taught me into it. She said, Daddy, when you do what you love and you get paid for it, it's heaven. I said, you're right, baby. And it's not even, I get paid to do what I absolutely love to do.
That part. Yeah.
So that's just it's just channeling that energy. I know we say we go through all that, but that you gotta channel that anger, channel it to your children and channel it to your family. Y'all blessed to still have a wife. Y'all gotta work it out. You gotta be like, you gotta be man and say, you know what, baby, forget all this. What's really happening?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
This is for the betterment of the empire we build.
Yeah.
We can't be going back and forth. Now, like I say, my mother married my stepfather. They went back again. But it's like, look, when you're on a mission, like Coretta Scott King and Martin Luther King, people don't see them at 2 o'clock in the morning. Like, baby, I'm working with this mission. What do you think I should do?
Right.
You know, your wife, your that's your partner. You see what I'm saying? That's your partner. But we as men have to be that person to run it. Like this is my family. This is how we gonna do this, and still be like, okay, baby, I'm giving you your opinion. I'm working with you, work with the children, and be there.
Yeah.
You know,
Man.
I just had to get that out.
Nah, man, I appreciate you sharing. I think you said a lot of key things, but I think it's gonna connect though to what we was talking about, that place of being validated, right, and understanding what that means. I know Erroll, he's an introvert, more introvert than extrovert, so he figured out a way to validate himself. But when we talking about what a father is, the father is the validation, right? To be able to speak validation, that's what we all looking for. We all looking to be validated. And when I hear your story, I hear you with your anger coming in at, it was like, yo, you had to make a decision to say, yeah, I'm going to validate my child because I wasn't validated. So I'm going to do the validation, right? And so from different perspectives, they need different places. I mean, even David in the Bible, he said he had to encourage himself. They was leading out to the what's the name, so he had to validate himself. But validation is important. And I feel like as a father, as a man, those words, that validation comes from us. Because we looking for the validation too. When it's over, we looking for job well done, son. Right? And so I think these communities, though, is what help us with validation. Being able to have a brother that's actually in the work, that's doing it. Like, yo, I see you as a father, bro. You know what I mean? I know it's tough. I know that you got some challenges, but that don't mean you lose it. You just got some challenges. Bro, you a great father. That validation mean a lot. To be able to hear my brother tell me, bro, you doing good. To hear my brother say, man, hey, man, listen, I see you. You know what I'm saying? To get a call from, hey, bro, listen, I don't know if anybody told you, bro. I see you, though. I see you working. I know it's tough. And it's probably things that I can never imagine of what you going through. But the validation is needed. And as a father, that's what we're here for. You know what I'm saying? Our kids working for that validation as well. Go ahead.
One more thing, Glenn. When your child comes up to you and say, Dad, I'm glad you didn't abandon me. Yeah. When they say, Dad, you the greatest. Yeah. You know, you're looking at them like, my daughter told me the other day, she said, Dad, I'm gonna introduce you to my she just got engaged. His parents. I see when he meet his parents and say, yeah, Dad, because you top tier. And I had to look that up. I'm like, top tier? See, they give you validation also.
Yeah.
And it's so powerful when it comes back from them. You're like, dang, okay. Yeah, Dad, I've been there, Dad. You did a great job. You're like, dang, okay.
Because we all want it. We all need it. We all need to be validated, man.
Go ahead.
Back here? Yup.
How can I put this? I was raised with neither parent.
Wow.
Neither. My mom married my dad to keep him in the country. He from Cuba. My mom ran the streets on the north end with Ron Banks of the Dramatics. I grew up in David Ruffin's house, Ron Banks' house, Four Tops house. I never had a man tell me the right from wrong. The only thing I had in my neighborhood was pimp players and gangsters. You see what I'm saying? But like you, my grandmother, 411, Macon, Georgia. When I got in trouble in the city, they sent me south. So I was raised by her. I got 8 sisters. I was raised in a house with 12 women.
Wow.
I'm the only boy.
Wow.
And guess what? I was taught your validation comes in your success beyond your children. That's how I was raised. Not saying everybody else was like that. See, like you, I had to fight every day. I know what it's like to be on Finkel and Linwood at Don Brosco Home for Boys. My mother, I can't speak bad, but she lived that street life. 4 sisters out of that 8 sisters that I had, all 4 of their dads were drug dealers. On documentaries here in Detroit, Funky Broadway, Tony Down, Dexter Boys, 12. Want me to go on? I grew up learning. Because I'm fighting you, it's not because I'm defending myself. It's defending my fear. For a very, very long time. As I got older, of course, excuse my language, I ended up being a hoe. I felt like, okay, well, since ain't nobody teaching me nothing, I'm going to take it out on whoever I'm with. that wasn't the right way to do it. Because God knew what he was doing. See, I always wanted boys. I ended up with 7 girls. He knew what he was giving me because he knew I would change sooner or later. It got to the point where when me and Earl was growing up, we worked together. I've always been that street guy, always been that thug, always never had nobody say, you're going to be successful here. It always came from him, even in our 20s and our 30s.
Validation.
I watched his son grow up from elementary, preschool. And I said to myself, it ain't never going to happen. I decided to change. My validation didn't come within other people. I figured if I raised my daughters right as being a single parent, my validation would come from people seeing their success. And as my daughters advanced, people like, I never thought you would have been able to do it by yourself. My 13-year-old, he's a witness, 5 years old. She holds the longest sniper shot in the state of Michigan on a long gun range. Right now, she's 13. She still holds the second and the third longest shot as a kid that wants to join the CIA. I never told her, don't do it. When we get these kids to defer their dreams, once it's gone, it's gone.
Mm-hmm.
If they want to do this, hey, I'm going to back you. There's a difference, backing and loving. But when you combine both of them and show love and push and help them kids are not going to forget you. And other people that's around that don't take care of their kids, they're going to see, I'm going to try with Earl. Exactly. Right there. When we look for it, we're not going to get it because most women are more single parents than we are. But when we get a single dad, it's like, do you want the validation? Yeah, I want it because I'm over here cooking and cleaning and doing all of this, and I got a house full of girls. Now I got 14 grandkids. That's what I got right now. And 8 of them are girls.
That's crazy.
So you know what I'm saying? People like, you would never make it right. I never thought that I would ever be a politician. First Black Latin ever to be elected to Macomb County Warren.
Wow.
Board of Education.
Wow, that's crazy.
The first black gun dealership owner in Macomb County.
Come on, man.
You see what I'm saying? And everybody behind me, man, he ain't gonna pull it off. You know who I had to cover me? You know who I had to give me that push when I had nobody? That man right there.
Brotherhood is amazing.
Earl,
Brotherhood is
never say
amazing.
no wrong. When we work together, I'll be ready to kill anybody over him. When he could have defended himself, but you not that type of person. He humble. Everybody ain't humble. But when you a single dad, you gotta be humble. Because when you go looking for stuff, people gonna shut the door on you. You gotta open that door and close it on your own. And that's how I see my validation. My validation lives through my kids when they make their success. If I fail, they fail.
Yeah.
Long as they grow, I grow.
I mean, I appreciate you for sharing. I just wanted to point out one of the biggest things that I got from that was that he had a brother to validate. And that's why we're here, right? To have somebody to be able to say, yo, you good, brother. You know what I'm saying? You good, my brother. You know what I mean? I know I'm here because of brothers validating, right? Somebody, one of my brother validating. Man, you good, bro. You don't know how much greatness you got. You good, dog. Like you in a good space. I mean, I know it might seem crazy, but my dude, you in a good space. You know what I'm saying? So I just wanted to bring back that validation because it's important. And as men, we are the one to do the validating. God gave us we do the validating. You know what I mean? I we can't let that, because our voice is what you said in the beginning.
Yeah.
God gave us the voice to do that. We named the trees and the bears and the tea. It's us.
The dominion.
We have the dominion to devalue and validate, right?
Yeah.
And so being able to be more intentional what we speak and how we speak, I think has been it's been something that I've been really working on. You know what I mean? Because it's easy to be frustrated and to say some BS. You know what I mean? Because that's what I'm used to hearing. I'm used to hearing my dad complain. I'm used to hearing my mama complain. But being able to be intentional with our words to validate, I think is super important. I know we got like two more questions. I know we kind of on time.
We ain't gonna even get to them 2 more questions. So I ain't even worried about it. We're gonna save them 2 more questions for another time.
We can.
I do want to do. So one of the things that I always want to make sure that we do is a takeaway, right? And so here's the only takeaway that I have for us until we meet again. Find somebody and say what you want to hear to another man. And I don't mean your child. I don't mean, it can be a cousin, it can be a brother, it can be a friend, it can be, but get in the habit of being able to say what you want to hear to somebody else. Okay? Just make that a practice. Whatever it is you need for yourself, give that to somebody else. And just, it don't have to be long and drawn out. It can be whatever. It can literally be like Ada said, good job. Whoever it is, some of you might already have that person, but that's what your takeaway is until we meet again, is to say to somebody else, another man, what it is that you need to hear for yourself. And the more that you do that, the more you'll start reflecting and getting it back. Y'all know that mental psychology thing they talk about, where you be like, oh yeah, I'm thinking about getting a red pickup. And you ain't seen red pickups for the last 6 months, but as soon as you say it,
Everywhere.
you're like,
Everywhere.
like when cuz get a red pickup? When they like it just, and so give what you want. That's what I want us all to be able to get in the habit of doing, is giving what we want. And when we give what we want, the food that comes back from that, the blessing that'll come back from that is bigger than we can ever imagine. It's the point. So I don't know if everybody, before we get to that point, because I didn't even look at the time. Okay, we got a little time. One of the things that the podcast and the project that we're doing is called Greater Than Me. And we all individually talked about that concept, right? And basically what Greater Than Me just establishes is exactly that. It's finding and identifying, just as Coach said, something in your life that is greater than you. And when you can focus and be able to put that energy into whatever that item is, right, it is greater than you. Here's the challenge that I have for all of us, because a lot of us mentioned, we all had the same story. What was really funny is a lot of us had the same story about our father working. We seen work, we seen this, like right? Bigger than the work, right? Because work is a thing, right? But work is not necessarily purpose. And I think we're understanding and being able to identify purpose from work, right? You mentioned you teach Spanish, right? Teaching Spanish is part of the work, but that's not the biggest, that's not the out. You know what I'm saying? Being able to give somebody a skill set where you don't even know where these kids are going to wind up, where now somebody's able to travel the world because of a lesson or something that you instilled from them. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's the purpose, right? Being able to expand somebody's horizon is the purpose. The job is education in Spanish, right? That's the job. And so Greater Than Me is exactly about that. It's about identifying those things in our life that is, it's not about me. It's greater than me, whatever that is, whether it be getting together, doing this, whether it be, making sure that somebody else, like you said, spending the time with somebody in the gym, making it, whatever it is greater than me, right? Pouring into your daughter, whatever it is greater than me. So that's the platform. That's what we're going to continue to push. So every month we're going to get together and continue to have these meetings, these conversations, and then we're going to continue to build on content, because ideally the goal is for us all to be able to have that constant dialogue, but also to develop and have a support system, right? Because, man, it's nothing worse than being out in the car in the driveway feeling like don't nobody understand me, right? And we all been there. So I ain't talking about something I don't know about. I'm going to get out here and I'm going to be in this driveway. I'm going to put this seat back
and sit for about 40 minutes to an hour and a half.
Even my boxing program and everything, and working with my youth, I feel that it has to be a parent component also.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the students, they'll come, and I'm a stickler about that, bring your child unprepared. Like the first week they come in our program, you can use our equipment. The second week, you have to bring your own equipment. I tell them, you got more than a father, you got more than mother, you got aunties, uncles, cousins, whatever, so there's no excuse not to have your equipment. But you got so many parents that just drop the ball. And it's something that's going on that you could help with, the father or the mother, whatever, that'll help. Because it's a trilogy. It's me, the parents, and the student. So somebody, if I'm dropping the ball, I try not to drop the ball. January is put a parent component onto it. I try to do parent meetings. It's like people look at the paper when we get down to parent meetings. Oh, I got some job. Oh, hold on. You ain't got 30 minutes out of 7 days to sit down and talk about some way that we can improve on your child. But that's not the program for you. But when I say that, I think myself, that's not helping. You know, I'm pushing them away. Be like, well, what can we do? Because we need to all work it out. Because by the time they come in, well, I don't have the money for this. Well, I don't have this. I can't get them there. Well, my work schedule, But it's like, they want to be involved in it. So what can we do to work? You know, like you say, that's bigger than the boxing thing. It's like, okay, what can we do? What's going on with you? What's going on with, you know, and then like you say, how the parents working together.
Yeah, it makes a big difference.
We thank y'all for coming here. We thank y'all for listening. If you're a father out there, pat yourself on the back. If you're not a father, pat yourself on the back, because you will be one day. And if you're not a father, tell somebody that is a father they're doing a good job. We are doing life together on a daily basis, and we are greater than me. We together with this. So let's find ways to do life together, and we're going to continue to do life together, me and my brother Erroll. We'll holler at you next time.
Boom. See you later.
There, go right there. Close your eyes and I don't need you.
Baby, you're a queen.
Just close your eyes and meditate on those words.
Brother, you're a king. Baby, you're a queen.
If you hear it, sing it to yourself.
Brother, you're a king.
Hey.
Baby, you're a queen.